Welcome back to the Cosmic Mistress podcast. I'm Amanda, and today we have Valentina, who lives in Sweden, correct?
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
That's good.
Um, yeah, I'm really excited to get to know you. What I do know are just things around cacao, and that's one of the things that you offer is cacao ceremonies. So, Valentina, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, what it is that you're currently offering, who you are, and then, yeah, we can go from there.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Amanda. And it's actually wild that we are across the world talking. So thank you for that. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Um, so, okay, so I go by the name of Valentina. I started or created a company originally called Just Be because it was about teaching myself how to just be authentic, be myself, be whatever it is that I am.
Hmm.
Because I've had so many faces in life, and of course I still do as I'm dealing with different situations. And that started off with making chocolate, dark chocolate, because I was in love with dark chocolate, and I wanted to learn the best nutritional way on how to reap the benefits of cacao, theobroma, of the plant. And everything that I found on the market, of course, it's mass produced and etc. And I thought, okay, let's look into that. And once I started doing that, this is almost 10 years back, not quite, but close to it. Um, I realized I went to quite a well-known place to learn how to make chocolate, and then they were like, "Oh no, we only use white sugar." And I was like, "No, that's not good." And oh, we use lecithin and all these kind of things. And with that, I realized that what I get off the shelf, even in health stores and stuff, is not quite what I want to put in my body in terms
Yeah.
of nutrition and health. So first I wanted to create something that would resonate with myself and then would also uplift people. So not only the cacao itself, but I started creating everything during the full moon because this is my connection. It's been my strongest connection. And I did like flavors linked to the chakras, and so I would infuse each chocolate with that. As time passed, because we are in Switzerland, or I am in Switzerland, there's huge competition. I mean, this is
Oh,
everybody
wow.
apparently knows that Switzerland is like the land of chocolate, and so realistically, like there was no way for me to put in the amount of money in marketing, and I did not want to go mainstream with like milk chocolates and sweet and whatever it is that people love. I wanted to stay authentic to the cacao
Hmm.
of America, and so I started creating. I moved away from all of this beautiful glossy chocolate and molds and all of these things, and I started doing more for myself. So I went back again to the roots. I went to myself, and I created only 100% cacao. So that means from the bean, roasting the bean, then it gets ground until it's a paste, no sugars, no alternative, and then it sits into a block, and that is
Hmm.
your cacao. With
So you're
all of
making
this,
all of that yourself.
yes, yes, I do all of
Wow.
this myself. Because again, I guess there's still a part of me that likes to control. As much as I'm trying to let go of that, it's a process, to tell you the truth. And I like to control what beans I use because that's quite important. It's
Hmm.
important to use organic because cacao holds not only energetically, it holds everything, but as a plant itself, it retains everything. It's almost like a mushroom.
Yeah.
You got to be careful where the mushrooms are grown and etc. And so because of that, I like to control the process. I like to know where the farmers are, who they are. And I like to get the best beans because originally, like I said, it started off just for me. It was my indulgence. And creating you can't create it in small, like, oh, a little 100 grams or 200. It comes in like kilograms. You create
Right.
4 or 5 kilos in one go. So I started kind of giving it away. With that, I started researching a little bit about cacao more and more than what I did when I was working with it as a chocolate. So when I was working with it, I got to visit farms and actually understand about fermentation, plantation, about harvesting, all of these things that are related to the cacao. And the more I learned, the more I was like, this is me. This is for me. I also learned the spiritual meaning of cacao and how it is done in what we in the West call ceremonies,
Mm-hmm.
which they're actually not ceremonies. They're kind of like a way of life. So we,
Mm.
you know, we wrap things up so that they become like interesting. It's like, oh,
Totally. Yeah, I would love to know the difference, like of how we do cacao ceremonies versus having it be more of a way of life, like more of like an embodied experience.
okay. So from what I have noticed with different tribes or different cultures, also, so not just the Mayans, also the Bribri, for example, in Costa Rica. What I have noticed is this is how can I say it's a part of life? To explain it, it is like it's like you have your coffee in the morning, but a little bit more with the whole process behind it. So because they have this plant in and around them, so it
Mm.
grows freely, right? So it's not like in Europe or maybe where you are, that cacao is not something that we're used to. It really is revered. Is that the way you say it? Revered.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more reverence. Yeah.
to as you know, plants themselves, and this is one
Mhm.
of them. And so this gets used really also for food and not just for drinking, but also there's a process to it, in the sense of um there is, even if you don't make a ceremony out of it, like, oh, we gather and we say a prayer or etc., there is a quiet um, ceremony that happens inside while you're using, not using as in like just eating, but while you're handling the cacao.
Okay.
So it's like there's specific rules which I've, let's call them rules, which I have noticed throughout. Like I said, is cacao is a feminine plant, and so it is always handled by women.
Mm.
So it can be roasted, for example, and fermented by men. However, when it comes to peeling the cacao beans, when it comes to grinding them, when it comes to forming it, when it comes to making it into a drink or anything and serving it, that is a woman that does it.
Mm.
So there's really this respect and connection to that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, for example, in the Mayan culture, in the Aztec, it is said that the god of cacao, and I'm really bad at pronouncing the name, so I'm not going to embarrass myself
That's
on that,
okay. That's okay.
um, has gifted this to the humans. And the humans are made of maize, like the corn, and cacao. And so, like, there's a deep thread which runs through the cultures, which I think it's a little bit, well, for me at least, it's a little bit difficult to explain because I am Western. And even though I grasp it to some extent, it's it's still a learned thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and it's much more like commercialized here as well, which I think part of that too is we're not seeing the full, like the birth and the full exploration of it and the journey
Mhm.
of the cacao before it's coming into ceremony.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that with, the rule around feminine holders, feminine keepers with cacao. I love that. And that seems like a really beautiful way to honor the plant as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm curious what you know and what you've seen as far as the benefits of consuming cacao or even the benefits of just being around the plant and yeah, what you've noticed.
Okay, so I will speak for myself. I of course can give some accounts, but I don't think that would be fair. But for myself, I can say that what I have noticed is, for myself, is really a shift in how I am. So a little bit of background, and quick, I'm not going to bore you with it. Most of my young adult life, so up
None of
until
this
even
will be boring. None of that is boring. I'm so happy to
so
hear it.
so even up until like latest 35, um I was very male side dominant,
Mm,
extremely. And that's okay. That suited me for what I thought I wanted out of life or needed, and it protected me from a lot of, I don't like the word trauma, but a lot of happenings in my youth, which have, kind of created this huge detachment. And
yeah. It's very common for women too to be like overly masculine, but it's not even really like they're masculine. It's a protection mechanism. Like they're
it
protecting their
is,
own
yeah.
feminine.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that, and that's a very interesting point, which nobody has actually mentioned,
Huh.
which is very nice. Um, in my case, though, I really think I was very masculine, and even in the
Yeah.
way I was acting.
Mm,
Never mind, earlier I mentioned control. It's gotten a little bit better, but this need of control was there since I was young because I could not control the outside situations and what was happening to me. So I
totally.
got to control my inner situation, or so I thought. And
Hmm.
that meant a lot of, with it came a lot of emotional blockage, which for
Yeah.
me was like, yay, this is great that I've managed to do this. I mean, for me, it was like an achievement, up until, like I said, my late 30s. This was like, hey, I don't need, like completely. And no matter the incidents that were happening in my life, including the death of my mom, um, triggered or anything emotions. I was just like function, 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 and
Yeah,
this
you
is
just
fine.
push right
You
through.
just
Yeah.
go. You just,
Yeah.
And with that came a huge closing. And also with that came, of course, all the wonderful, which I'm not completely rid of, to tell you the truth, all the wonderful, not only not worthy, but why would somebody, even a friend, want to be friends with me or be with me
Yeah.
if they had to see the monster that's inside. So this was this
Totally.
beautiful picture that I was painting of myself. It was, so,
Yeah.
to jump forward
Very
to your
masking.
question.
Like we call it like
Yeah,
wearing a mask. Yeah.
yeah. So I said, I've had many faces and I still do, but hopefully they're not as intense.
Totally.
But now
Well,
to
yeah, and the
get back,
goal is to just become more conscious of when we're doing that because we all do it, right? Like we're all
yeah.
doing it. The goal is to like become conscious of it faster so that we're
Hmm.
not like in that place for like years, like maybe a
Yeah.
couple days or a week instead of years. Yeah, because we all do it.
So that's gotten lesser for me. But look, to tell you the truth, I've also I haven't only just worked with cacao, I've worked on myself over time. So it's been a process. Wow, what a surprise, of course. It's been a process, and it started off originally with like some, energetic coaching and whatever. And then it went into traditional tantric, so not the modern stuff that's all about sex and whatever.
Right.
It's more the traditional stuff, and that kind of took a big chunk, and then that kind of stayed in the background, and I evolved towards cacao. And cacao has just, for me, what has it done? I can definitely say I'm softer. I connect to my
Mm,
heart much quicker. Of course, I
yeah.
still go into those patterns, not all of them. I still like, I'm not like, the perfect, happy, whatever, and healed and no, I still go into that. But like you were saying, the time
Hmm.
period is much shorter, and
Yeah.
I click out of it much quicker. And I realize, you know, the things that I do even to hurt myself, a huge thing that has happened, to tell you the honest truth, is huge for me, is how much or how much I realize that I don't want to hurt anybody or use, or let's call it abuse, even with
Hmm.
words, even when I'm angry or react with that.
Yeah.
Um, and that, because it hurts right here, but like
Yeah.
it hurts. And
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's opened you up and brought you into like closer contact to your own like empathy, your own heart, having compassion, softness, and also like raising your own consciousness to where you can see these patterns and not go into shame or guilt or spiral or allowing them to continue to run the show. You're more aware that they're showing up and have more compassion for yourself when they do, which
Yeah.
that that's the whole goal for all of us, right? So yeah, that's really, really powerful. I would love even too, if you would like to share anything around Tantra, um, because I know too that's also a really big opening. And it sounds like too the cacao is very opening, it's very heart-led, it's very almost has an energy of surrender, but
Mhm.
not, sometimes there's things that happen in life where you're kind of like forced to surrender, but this seems a little bit more gentle.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious, like the similarities with Tantra and cacao as like using those two things as medicine, and also what you've taken away from Tantra that has been really beautiful for you.
Mhm. Um, Similarities, I would say the inner stillness and calmness.
Hmm.
Um, and when I refer to that with cacao, even though I use it every single day, it has a bigger impact in terms of these elements of stillness, calmness, gratitude, all of these, when I'm sitting with others. Because the collective has a particular energy that it gives off, so everything gets amplified.
Yeah.
Um, from the tantric perspective, Again, Tantra is about senses, and so is Cacao. Cacao is very, very, very much about senses. So I try to bring that also into the gatherings, or what they call the ceremonies, in the sense of, you get the introduction to the being first. So in that raw form, you sense it. Then by the time you get to drink, you get to feel the temperature. You get to actually feel it in your mouth. So it's all a little bit about the senses. You smell it. You kind of, it becomes a tactile thing.
Yeah.
The thing that also I learned about Tantra, or from Tantra, which has helped me a lot. So during the time that I was mentioning to you when I was younger, and this detachment, it was also very easy for me to not be here, not be in the body, not be present.
Totally.
And later, when I started meditating, the traditional way, I would be able to do that for like an hour, and then coming back, it was heartbreaking. It was literally like it was tearing me apart, and I never wanted to do that. Fast forward, Tantra Cacao, now I focus really on, as much as I can, also when I do somatic work with people, to bringing them into the body. And it's very easy for us as humans, and it's normal to go into our head, go into our stories, into our past, into our future, to get caught up in something that has an emotional impact on us.
Yeah.
And things like Tantra, which is it's a whole system in this case, which would be your asanas, so your movement. It would be your breath. It would also be certain massages. So we're not talking about like lingam and yoni and stuff. We're talking about like, kind of that is very body oriented. And so is cacao. When you drink cacao, it's very earthy. You're here. You have to be here. You can't. Because also the cacao that I got taught and I'm serving is not with sugars or plant milks or anything like that. It is really traditional. So it's water, cacao, and maybe some spices. So each palate, each person, each physical body reacts in a particular way to it. And if I drink it and you drink the same thing, you and I will have a different reaction, because that's how it is. You will have the reaction that you need, what your body is telling you. My body will react in a particular way. So again, it's about bringing you back here, centering you, bringing you into earth. With that came a bit of also healing process, that because, as you know, most likely, we forget things, or we push away things, or we erase. The body stores everything.
Totally.
And
Yeah,
so,
I love what you're pointing to with like coming back to the body. Yeah.
and so with all the tantric practices that we were taught, I was in an ashram for quite a while, and trust me, this was not my idea to do this. I was like, I'm there for a week, because I was having a burnout at work. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I kind of stayed. So it was like resign, and then, it really brings you into the now. Like you can't be somewhere else, because at the beginning, it's like there's certain things which are uncomfortable within the body, never mind the mind. They're uncomfortable, and you're doing these things, and there's these positions, and you're like, what the hell? And I'm supposed to do what? And the teacher's like, you just hold it, because it's all about like getting into your parasympathetic nervous system. And I swear to God, I remember at the beginning, I was like, if they say this one more time, relax. I swear to God, I'm going to get up and punch them. So I was still in that very kind of active to very whatever. With time, you really learn to let go. And
Mm.
cacao also helps with that because it is gentle. It's not a very it's a very gentle medicine, unlike most plant medicines that take you on a trip or like shake you up or like make you react or etc. Cacao, I always call her abuela, the grandmother,
Mm.
because she comes along and she's like a grandmother that hears, listens, but she will teach you things in in a kind grandmotherly way that you
Yeah,
will take.
gentle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not like your parents or whoever is like, I told you to do it. No, grandmother would be like, when I was your age, and
Yeah.
and you go, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
So and I'm not saying all grandmothers are like this, but generally, if we think about that kind of energy, that feminine, wise, older woman energy, which has reconnected to herself and to the earth, my
Mhm.
grandmother was like that.
Totally.
It's like she was my safety. Like in
Uh-huh.
the chaos that was happening at home and I was feeling, whenever I was shit scared, I hope I can say that on podcast,
No, you
I would
can.
run to her room because I felt safe there. So this
Yeah.
was, you know, I'm not sure I answered your question.
No, you totally did. And also, like everything you're pointing to with like coming back into the body and being present in order to have that connection with yourself, to connect with other people. And what you just mentioned too is like the safety. Like the
Mhm,
safety is so necessary. Otherwise, we're not going to feel safe going back into our body, especially if we've
mhm,
experienced years of pressing things down. Like that's
mhm,
usually very, very scary for people, whether or not they're adults. Because we don't know what it is. Like we don't know what it is we're about to feel. We don't know what memories are going to come up. We don't
mhm,
know how other
mhm,
people are going to perceive us once we
mhm.
are in those emotions. So it sounds like cacao is a really beautiful medicine to promote more safety with dropping in and staying in the body. And I'm curious too what your ceremonies, like what that looks like when you're holding space for a lot of people. Like what happens in those spaces? What have you noticed? What are people coming out of telling you that they've experienced in them?
So the way I hold space has evolved. At the beginning, just to clarify again, I wasn't like this from the beginning. At the beginning, I really wanted to follow everything traditionally, like, okay, so I need to do this and then I need to do that, and then this is what I've been taught, and I need, so again, it was very to feel safe. It was like, okay, systematic, I need to, etc. And many times I ended up with unbelievable migraines at the end of it. Like I wasn't able to even function at the end of the gathering.
Hmm.
And one gathering, I don't know what happened. I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. So there's a start to the ceremony, which I still hold, which is of course honoring the land, honoring the directions, honoring the cacao. And this I will keep, doesn't matter if it is cacao or something else, because it
Mhm.
is pulling in the spirits and also in a way giving time for people to arrive, even though they're in the space, you know, you know what I mean, to actually arrive. We come
Yeah.
from a busy day, weekend, life, kids, family, husbands, wives, everything. We're not really present. Then I like to do some sort of, like I said, movement or some somatic thing that brings you into the body. So be it touching, moving, touching your body, or moving or something, just to kind of go, you're here. This is
Mhm.
real. You're not.
Yeah.
This is. And then it depends. I don't know what happens. There's a gap between beginning and end again when we say thank you to the spirits and we let them go. There's this period where anything can happen. So there've been moments where we just sit or lie in stillness, like you would do with other plant medicines like ayahuasca or yahe or something, and then you just there's most of the times now there's songs that I sing, that I bring in the stillness. I encourage people to join in if they want to. If not, that's also okay.
Mm-hmm.
Again, whatever you feel. If it's needed that there's movement, then we move. If it's whatever calls, I can't really tell. I allow it to unfold. I really ask at the beginning of the ceremony that Cacao does what it needs to do, and I don't stand in the way,
I love
because
that.
this is the only time that I can, with certainty, allow myself to surrender and trust that it will be like it needs to be and it will be perfect. Whereas in the beginning, I wanted it to be perfect. So then like I said, I was following certain things, and I was like, if I don't do like this, and if I don't, and people are going to get bored, and they're going to find it weird, and they would.
That's what I was just thinking too, is what a powerful way for you to practice also being in trust. And it sounds like this has been a beautiful experience for you too, of
Yeah.
also letting go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a huge lesson, and honestly, since then I don't have issues with headaches or anything like that.
Wow.
And how people experience it, it's a little bit different. Um, some sometimes, not in all ceremonies, they will have emotions come up from nothing, and they will cry or they will release somehow. It's going to sound maybe harsh. I let them do that for a while, but then I try to bring them back into the body.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we
I
can
don't think it's
be.
harsh. I don't think it's harsh though. I think that it's very empowering because you're learning to hold yourself.
Well, yeah, the point is that again, you don't just go off into your story,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and then you get lost, and then you're no longer here, and whatever. Experience it, feel it, yes, but don't give it so much power, be it good or bad. There's no good or bad, but it's like
Right.
in this context that you just completely give yourself away to that, and you know and like I said, the whole point is that we feel present. And so
Mm,
to do that, yes, you're allowed to express, you're allowed to feel, because maybe you need to. However, there's a time that you also, kind of come back. And there's a bit of resistance, I have to say, from people.
in the coming back.
Yes, in
Oh,
the coming
totally.
back.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful space to be in for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I speak from experience. I can get caught up in emotions, of course, and then it's very hard to come back to the reality of the fact that no, I'm not my emotions. I'm not in that moment. I'm in
Mhm.
this moment, and I can change my perspective or react at least now from this
Totally.
moment. So it's very, very difficult.
Mhm.
So you get that, but in general, it's very interesting. There's always been a general, I don't even know the word. Not because I don't know the language. I'm trying to think of. There's
Like an openness or
that and a quietness isn't
Mm,
like,
peace.
yeah, but peace in the sense of not very temporary, not in the sense of, oh, I'm here so I can think about all my other troubles later. It's almost
Mhm.
like those are there. However, they're not as important or as grand as I thought they were.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Sometimes,
that
like,
the inner
yeah.
peace grows larger than the things that we feel restless about or the things that we think are so important. It's like the peace has taken up more space than those things.
Yeah, yeah. So you get lost in like details,
Hmm.
and it almost feels like there's a quietness that happens in people, and with that comes a relief, a release, a relief, and then a lightness. You know, you can see in them. They're like, it's not the kind of like, wow, this was like amazing, and oh my, no, it's the kind of, okay,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
So
I've
yeah.
found too like the subtle, like the subtle, more of like the subtle, consistent, subtle experiences we have
Mhm.
that open us up are even more powerful than like the really big blasty openings because it's a lot easier to integrate those into our life.
Hmm. That's interesting. But don't you find that perhaps, if I can ask, it's that the big explosive ones are the ones that make people want to, I don't know, feel like they've done something and
Totally. Well, 1,000%.
yeah.
Because it's like if, well, and once you have one of those, it's you're almost like disappointed with anything less than
Hmm.
that because it
Yeah.
feels like you didn't really do
Yeah.
anything, or maybe you
Yes.
didn't do it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know for me, like at the very beginning of my journey with doing anything somatic, there were a lot of very big openings, um, which took me a very long time to integrate those openings. And then after a while, it was like more of like the subtle pops that actually didn't take me very long to integrate into my day-to-day life. And that's when I realized like those are actually just as powerful, if not more powerful than the really large ones. But I do think like the really large experiences are the ones that lead us like searching and chasing for more, almost like an addiction with, doing
Hmm.
plant medicine ceremonies or whatever it is, because we feel like we're doing it wrong or we're not getting what we need if we don't have an incredibly large experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. You mentioned something which reminded me part of the ceremony. You said integration. This is also part of, towards the end, some sort of integration. Not,
Yeah,
of course, to the degree or maybe the depth that you have with yahe, ayahuasca, iboga, and all of these things, because it's a different. Um, it's on a different frequency. It's on a different level. So
totally.
it's, and a lot of the stuff, I would say, you might not even feel it straight away. Again, like with the other stronger medicines, even psilocybin, if you take, straight away, you're like, I'm whatever.
Yeah.
Or cacao, it's a little bit like, you gotta be patient, and you just gotta like not expect, and you just have to see, and it comes in like little drops, you know, and yeah, you just, if it's for you or not at the end, and sometimes you might feel like it's not, and then before you know it, it's go back to it.
Yeah, I had that experience even with combo, which was not like the most gentle experience, but after I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't really feel anything. And then like a week later, I had the emotional side of things start coming up from that experience where I was like, oh wow, it doesn't always all happen at once. Like we have it in our head, like this is the way it's going to go and it's going to show up in this way in this amount of time, and that's just not always the case. So, yeah, I think being patient and also understanding like not only you and your body, but the medicine and the integration of the two is also on its own timeline. And like we also get to
Mm-hmm.
honor that.
Yeah, and you said it very well, and it's interesting. I never really thought about it. And now that you said it, it's very nice. You got to realize the let's say the shift or the work a week later or however long, it doesn't matter. Time is irrelevant, right? The
Right.
beautiful thing about it is that you said you got to realize it and you got to connect it and you got to see and you didn't see it as an isolated thing. I believe
Yeah.
that there's still a lot of people, and I could be wrong, but just my a little bit feeling and experience is that there's a lot of people that don't make this connection. So they can experience something, whatever it is, cacao or something else. And it can even be Chinese medicine. And then, like a week, a month later, there's a shift, whatever that is.
Right.
But the connection is not made. And so that thing that happened a week or a month or whatever before is, how can I say, well, it was nothing. It's crap.
Yeah, it's like disregarded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's interesting too, like if you look at it from the perspective of like connecting and building a relationship, just like we hopefully all do with actual humans, of like coming into contact with each other and not like being extractive or expecting to get something from the interaction, going into it with that expectation. Like if we approached different ceremonies or different experiences and plants and medicine and all these things with that same perspective of like, I'm here just to connect. My
Mhm.
only expectation is to be open and curious and explore. And in that, we'll see what happens. Like, because it all gets to be a really beautiful mystery. And I think just having gratitude for even being able to have the experience,
Mhm.
both with all of those things and with human connection, like, if we can start looking at it in the same way, I think like that's how we also connect to more possibility, even if subtle, like more things can actually happen and unfold. But it's hard to notice those things if we have expectations in our mind or if we're, needing things to be a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's in a way a result, at least my opinion is that's a result of the way that we have constructed our society, that we have moved away really from, I always say we moved away from nature, like from really connecting with nature, from
Totally.
really understanding, how sacred plants are in general, not just these ones, because even
All of
the ones
them,
that
yeah, have
are
a
in your
purpose.
kitchen, yeah, like the
Like,
stuff that you use in your kitchen, they
right.
are healing plants to start off with. And it's just become a thing. And now, like what you were saying, it's also, we're looking for something because, and the expectations I find, at least now, it's because there's so much information out there. And there's
Totally.
just, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right, it just is. We're in
Mhm.
an age now where everywhere you go, or everything you swipe or whatever, it's like, oh, this one's done that and it's like this, and look how fabulous or not fabulous or whatever.
Yeah,
So there's nothing left for us to really not even imagine, but to kind of want to be curious about, because
totally.
that
And there's no
curiosity.
mystery. There's a lot less
Yeah,
mystery.
there
So
you
we're like
go.
so
There you
much more
go. Yeah.
uncomfortable in the unknown. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah, that makes
everything
a lot of
has
sense.
become a bit more like, um and of course this is how we control everything. It's
Mhm.
like we give a particular impulse, we, even as individuals or as we give an impulse, and we don't listen anymore. Not
Yeah,
only to, like, it takes a long time to remember how to listen. At least it took for me, to my body. And
Totally.
to the extent that I believe it, because the instinct was always there. I had it. Like since I can remember, I get off certain foods as it goes towards winter without me even realizing. I swap certain things towards summer again without me realizing.
Yeah.
Now I realize, but I didn't. I eat certain things, and then much later I realize, oh, it's because I'm deficit in this energy within me and I needed that or whatever. But, there's, it's difficult to trust that again and to get into that. At least that's
Totally.
how I feel.
Yeah, well, yeah, I believe too, especially as women too, we've been very conditioned into like shoving the instinctual down. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I could do a whole like 5-hour podcast just on that.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and so a lot of coming back into the body is reconnecting with that part of ourselves. And there's so much there, like our intuition, our instincts, like we're so wise, and if we slow down long enough and actually listen, and then not only listen but like act on what is coming up quickly,
It.
like
Yeah.
shortening the gap between the intuition and the instincts that are coming up and acting on it is really what starts to build what I think like self-trust and
Mm-hmm.
confidence, and like having that wise intuition within us all the time. So I appreciate you sharing all of that. We're going to wrap up. I would love for you to
Mm-hmm.
share where people can find you online. And I would love to
Mm-hmm.
talk more with you too about potentially doing something here in Colorado at some point, which Light and I will send you messages and we'll talk about all of that, because this is very powerful and I would love to collaborate in some way. But where can people find you online? Is there anything online you're offering, or even in person? If there's people in Switzerland that are going to hear this, I would love for you to
Yeah.
just share all of that.
So online, it's going to be my website, which is just be one word dot Swiss, as in SWISS.
Beautiful.
I would give you my Instagram, but I'm going to move away from social media very soon. I haven't made
Awesome.
it public yet, but I just did. Um, yeah, that's also, I find it's a lot of noise and
Totally.
a lot of
Good
there's
for you.
beautiful things out there. Don't get me wrong, but it's just yeah. So I
Totally.
will stick to the website, I would say.
Awesome. And I'll put that in the show notes too. And then when you do get rid of Instagram, make sure to let me know how to stay in touch with you.
Yes, I will. I will do
Okay.
that.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Valentina. It
Thank
was
you.
awesome getting to
Thank
know
you for your
you and
time.
hearing about all this. Of course.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.